everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture. I hope everybody's coping okay with this withdrawal of Doctor Who after that treat that we had at the end of last year, but we don't have long to wait, so just hang on in there. But while I've got you, there's something that I did touch upon when the initial announcement was made for this particular thing, but haven't really discussed it in great detail since then, and I know that some people have been getting a little bit confused as to what it means with regards to the future of the show, with regards to the distribution of the show, so I thought that I would just delve into that a little bit further. And as usual, I want to hear your thoughts as well, so do let us know what you think about this particular topic in the comments down below. So if you missed, back in November last year, Russell T Davies revealed to our good friend Darren Scott over at SFX magazine the upcoming new series of the show, following on from the 60th anniversary, following series 13 or Flux, would not be series 14, which I think we all just assumed it would be, or if you've been following the numbering all the way since the very beginning, season 40. Instead, it would be labelled season 1, which would mark a new beginning for the show, if you like. So first and foremost, I feel like I really need to emphasise here that just because it is being labelled as season 1, it is not a reboot. At least not in the typical sense of a reboot. We don't have new characters per se, or completely new continuity or anything like that. Obviously we do have a new Doctor, but even so. Now I know some of you might be going, well yeah, of course it's not a reboot, what are you talking about? But we have had a ridiculous number of comments of people getting very confused by us calling it season 1. And I suppose if you're not following every detail as greatly as people like us are, if you've just popped in and out and suddenly it's going season 1, I can see why people would jump to the conclusion that that means an entire reboot for the show. And in a way it's kind of strange, because we know that the new season 1, is actually really the opposite of a reboot, because we've already got legacy characters returning that we know of. We've got Mel Bush returning in season 1, who is not a new character. We've got Kate Stewart returning in season 1, who again is not a new character. Her character debuted over a decade ago at this point. We even have Rose returning, not Rose Tyler, Rose Noble. And although she's not as deeply regarded as a legacy character as Mel is or as Kate is, she is an existing character. So all of these things just go to highlight and prove season 1 is not by any means a complete and utter reboot of the show. I mean, I guess it is kind of funny to think about, because any other show, if you saw this kind of relabeling happen, would be an entire reboot. It just kind of speaks to the uniqueness of Doctor Who and the nature of the show by changing the lead character so often, but continuing that continuity. That's a good phrase. And I think the thing is with Doctor Who is, even if they were rebooting, which they're not, but even a reboot of the show, I think, would still follow the same structure of Doctor Who. I don't think they would ever entirely start the show from scratch. Why would you? The premise of the show and what's made it so successful for so long, it works. Why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, so now that we've established that it's not a reboot, we then get to the question of why change it then? I mean, I've literally just said if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the simple answer is 2 words. Broader appeal. Now, this is what Russell T Davies said to SFX magazine regarding this. The massive Disney launch starts in May with season 1, because I think people are beginning to ask, why is there no big Disney push behind the 60th anniversary specials? That's coming in May. To be honest, the reason that they've decided this is because Doctor Who will now be distributed on a major international streamer. It will be airing on Disney+. Now, as Russell T Davies has stated in just that quote, the Disney promotional side of it hasn't really begun yet. And because it is going to be on Disney and appealing to a whole new audience, you're going to sell it a lot easier by calling it season 1 than airing this brand new property at series 14. That's a very daunting number to look at. And I mean, I know I personally have been dissuaded from watching a new show based on how many seasons there are that I would need to catch up on. It's very much easier to sell something if you're starting it from season 1 than going, here's a brand new thing that you can watch, series 14. No one's going to watch that. They'll go, well, I haven't seen any of the other series of it. And then following on from that, we don't know at this point whether series 1 to 13 is going to be added to Disney+. At the moment, no. In the long run, probably. But at the moment, I think there's too many there's too much red tape to go through, too many rights and issues with regards to who can and can't own it, when and where. My gut is telling me that maybe one day, series 1 to 13, maybe even Classic Who will all be available on Disney+, but for the time being, they do not have series 1 to 13. So beyond the point of looking at a show and going, series 14, I've got 13 series to catch up on first, beyond that, they actually don't have access on Disney to the first 13 series. So it makes absolutely zero sense to promote something as the 14th series of something where no one can watch the rest of it, what came before. Now I can see why they've done this, why they've changed this, totally makes sense. But let's just flip it round for a second, because I can also see why some people have found this whole change a bit iffy, a bit red flag maybe. When the show was revived in 2005 and it was branded Series 1, that made more sense. There'd been a 16-year gap between the end of Classic Who and the beginning of this revival. And it kind of was a soft reboot of sorts. Season 1 is a direct continuation of the Christmas special, the 60th anniversary, which was a direct continuation of The Power of the Doctor, which was a direct continuation of Flux. There's no definitive break here. Another thing that stands out as a bit odd, it doesn't sit well with us personally, let us know your thoughts, is now that everything is available on BBC iPlayer in the UK, you have the split of Classic Who, but then you have Doctor Who 2005 to 2023, and then Doctor Who again 2023 onwards. And as I keep saying, there's a definitive divide between Classic Who and Modern Who, but it seems pointless having this split between whatever this new Who is. I don't know, it just seems a bit strange. But like I said, from a Disney Plus perspective, totally makes sense. Completely understand why they've done that in terms of gauging a new audience. However, it would be interesting to see a new viewer click on this season 1 of Doctor Who on Disney Plus, having not seen anything prior, because they are not going to understand what's going on. Be interesting to see how that goes. But with all of this said, when we really look at it, the show is not really changing that much at all. If you look at the church on Ruby Road, if you look at the 60th anniversary specials, it's still the same wacky, goofy, weird, nerdy show that it's always been, just with a bit of a bigger budget. But, we've done probably 90 plus minutes of content just on the Easter eggs from those 4 episodes. So that just proves that there's already lots of inclusions and nods to the show's history. So it's not disappearing, they're not rewriting history, they're not rebooting anything. It still very much counts on its past. Personally, we were thinking that the producer, Joel Collins, in the most recent issue of SFX magazine, he put it perfect. His mentality on it is very good. And he said, from the Disney perspective, it's just a bigger audience. So the show is the show that is bigger, but it's the same. It's still Doctor Who, isn't it? Basically, they're having their cake and eating it too. They're starting from season 1, they're appealing to a bigger audience, but they're basically still continuing the show that it always has been. You know that there are going to be more characters returning at some point. You're definitely going to see the Daleks at some point as well. Personally, not the biggest fan of the number change. I've got more used to it now that I've had time to sit with it and get used to it. But really, it's just cosmetic. It means nothing with regards to the show itself. It's all just to do with marketing and distribution and appealing to a wider audience. But in terms of the show itself, it makes no difference if it's season 1, series 14 or season 40. But like I said, do let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Remember to respect everybody's opinions. I don't want to see no fighting in the comments. Ooh, I'm knackered.